Many of y'all might know me as Funky Dineva Ross, but today you can call me the ditch digger's daughter, bitch. Cause when you dig one ditch, you might as well dig two. Cause what you got planned for me is gonna happen to you. What am I talking about? Oh, baby, this last episode of Married to Medicine. Wanna talk about it? Here it goes. Y'all, I am so mad right now because I actually just sat here and recorded a 30-minute video and the file was corrupted. And now I'm having to sit here and try to recall everything that I said the last time and make it all make sense. And it was actually flowing so natural the first time. And I absolutely hate when this happens, but I'm going to try my hardest to get it out the same way I felt this first time. This episode is starting to come to an, ooh, child, I don't fart it all down to the thing. This episode of Married to Medicine single-handedly is one of the best in Married to Medicine history, and this episode went down as one of the best episodes of this season. If this episode don't serve as a cautionary tale to some of y'all about digging ditches for other people, it should, okay? The old adage says, while you dig one ditch, you might as well dig two, because what you got planned for me is going to happen to you. Now, listen, I know some of y'all gonna get in y'all bag and be like, oh, he's so biased. He biased. He's Quad friend. Full disclosure, I am Quad's friend. I'm not just her regular friend, bitch. I'm her good friend, okay? But this don't have nothing to do with being friend. I am being extremely objective and emotionally intelligent in this situation, and I'm finna tell it all like it T.I. is. Gregory Lunsford was triggered down to the ground on this episode, and he deserved every single last bit of it. You know who I feel bad for in this episode? I feel bad for Sweet Tea, because Sweet Tea was used as a pawn in a game that was much bigger than her, started before her, and is obviously too complex for her to comprehend. All right? Sweet Tea was used and weaponized, that whole situation to get back at Quad. I'm just going to keep it 100% real here. All right? And I need y'all to acknowledge me when I'm right and correct me when I'm wrong. There is no world where Greg and Letitia Lunsford walk into a casting of a reality show and Greg and Letitia gets chosen. There's just no world where that happens. On their own, they're just not that damn interesting. Great people, beautiful people, I'm sure. Full, robust lives, I'm sure. They're not that interesting. Greg was not on this show for what, 1 or 2 seasons or whatever. Somebody thought it would be a very bright idea, i.e., for example, Simone, Toya, I think Heavenly might have had her hands in that pot, producers, and Greg included. They thought it would be a great idea to bring Greg and his new girl on the show to rub it in Quad's face. Oh, they wanted to put Quad in the hot seat. You'd have thought them hoes had crabs, the way they was fidgeting and stuff. You'd have thought they had little bed bugs all between their legs and in their butt. They were so ready, for the first scene to bring her in. They wanted to bring her in to see what Quad was going to do, and they got nothing for it. They wanted to bring that girl in to make Quad uncomfortable, and they got nothing for it. All right? They got absolutely nothing for it. There is, some of y'all might beg to differ because you don't like Quad, and that's your prerogative. You're the one being biased. But there's just no world, there's no world where you make a Quad Webb jealous with the Letitia Lunsford. It's just not happening. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about Letitia. I'm not trying to say, Letitia, in my God honest opinion, is the everyday black woman, okay? But there just is not a world where you put the two of them together and they're in the same league. They're not. They're simply not. And I think what triggered the shit out of Greg is the fact that by every quantifiable stretch of the imagination, King is an upgrade. King is conventionally attractive, and there is not a single person who would not agree. Greg has that childlike voice. He's short, he's stubby, and society tells us that that type of man is undesirable. So that alone is enough to make somebody feel a certain type of way. And then you've got Quad drunk on the thing, talking about they have sex 30 times and she want to bust it wide open for him and have a baby for him. All the things that Greg wanted from her that she is now, that she was hesitant to talk about, hesitant to do. And now it seems like, oh, she's just so gung-ho. But and quiet as it's kept, not only is she gung-ho, they're actually trying to have a baby. There goes some free tea for sweet tea. They're actually trying to have a baby. Might even show up down to the reunion pregnant. All right. You didn't get that from me. Nevertheless, here it is. You wanted to have a baby with this woman. That would make anybody feel away. That would make anybody feel insecure. That'll make anybody feel triggered and mad to see that my wife, my ex-wife, I had to pull, jump through so many hoops to get her to do certain things. And she's so freely willing to do it for this one. That realization that I'm just not the one. I was just not that dude. But here's the thing, Greg, you deserve every minute of it. You deserve every minute of discomfort that you felt in this situation because your ass was down with the get down when you thought you was doing big shit bringing in Letitia. And quiet as it's kept, whether Quad had a man or not, I really just don't think there was a world where she ever gave a damn that you were with Sweet Tea. And Sweet Tea, you need to stop with this whole Quad is jealous of you thing, because that's just not, it's just not giving what needs to be gave in terms of believability. And if you don't believe me, just check the comments, mama. The people is not going with it. The people is not going with that. And just so we are clear here, because there is a group of y'all that I've seen on social media. And again, it's that group that's just committed to misunderstanding. And because you don't like a person, you want the narrative to be the negative narrative that you created in your mind. I'm noticing that there is a group of y'all on social media who are like, she must not be over Greg, because if she was over Greg, she wouldn't have been doing that. No. For clarity, it doesn't have anything to do with being over Greg, and it has everything to do with being petty, being childish, being immature, and getting my lick back. Okay? That's what this is. That girl is so far beyond over Greg. Look at her new man. And it'd be one thing, the girls, y'all can't even be like, yeah, he might look good, but Greg is a doctor. Greg got money. He has money too. He has a pretty coin too. So again, she didn't lose anything by moving on. She wanted to get her lick back, okay? Greg thought it was so funny. The girls thought it was so funny to try to bring somebody on to rubbing her face. And now she rubbing it back in his face 10 times harder. Like Rasputia said, oh, a bitch want to go down the slide? She showed a bitch how to go down the slide. As men, we experience the very same insecurities that women do, and especially physically, all right? And listen, there's an old adage that says, you can't compete where you don't compare, all right? Education aside, finances aside, King is conventionally attractive. He is tall, he is muscular, he exudes all this masculinity. He's got smooth skin, he's young and fit. All the things that society tells a man he should be, and all the things that Greg isn't. I know King walks into a room and his presence alone tap dances on Gregory's esteem. And there's a argument. Oh, but you know, Greg's a doctor, so what? You still ain't fine. You still short. You still funny looking. You still got this, you know, feminine, childlike voice. You know what I'm saying? And it's listen. And I'm not ragging on Greg. Any man, any man who looks the way Greg looks, and their wife left them for King, would feel away. They would. They would. Because nobody wants to feel like they lost. Nobody wants to face the fact that their mate upgraded and I'm the downgrade compared to her new person. Nobody wants to feel that. Nobody. And I love what Curtis said. He said, if I was Greg, I would have never came back to this friend group. That's because Curtis got good sense. That's because Curtis has a pure heart. And the thing that I don't understand is, Greg, you should have had a little more emotional intelligence and emotional control to be able to contain yourself in this situation, especially considering you drew first blood. You drew first blood. It would have been a complete different situation if Dr. G was like a fan favorite and he was all intertwined in the Married to Medicine. We hadn't even seen you for 1 or 2 seasons. Your sole purpose for coming back was to come back with your wife, rub it in Quad's face, and let the world see how she responded to it. That was your sole purpose. And the situation has now backfired. And now you mad. And unfortunately, now, Sweet Tea, you're being drugged in the middle of something that don't have nothing to do with you. Sweet Tea, I'm going to be very honest with you, and I'm going to give you some free PR advice. I think that you, at this point, I think that you need to stop and seize all commentary when it comes to Quad. When you did your recent live, when you were talking about Quad is just jealous of, baby, she's not jealous. Trust me. And if you don't want to trust me, just read all of the comments under the post. Everybody's laughing at you. Everybody is laughing at you by no quantifiable measure. And listen, I know that there's a group of y'all that are going to call me biased because you can't separate me being friends with Quan from what I'm saying. But there is no quantifiable, readily accessible standard of measurement where anybody with a level of comprehension beyond that of a third grader is going to honestly believe that Quad is jealous of you or anything. That, baby girl, you land in that house that woman was in. She ride better than you. She make more money than you. She live nicer than you. She's more pulled up than you. Some would argue she looks better than you. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so I'm not going to go there. Her man is finer than your man. Her man is more desired in the world than your man. Her man turns eyeballs when they walk. Her and her man together, they turn heads. You and your man don't. And that, I promise y'all, this is not me being nasty. This is just the God honest truth. And so you keep making yourself look silly when you're talking about she's jealous of you. Baby, I already said you can't compete where you don't compare. You can't compete where you don't compare. So it's best that you don't even try. And honestly and truthfully, I think between now and the reunion that you need to do some type of media cleanup of just letting it be known you just want to go back to a neutral state of being with Quad because there was no overlap between you and Quad. Her and Greg got divorced. Whether she initiated the divorce, whether he wanted to end the marriage, it really doesn't matter. Fact of the matter is, they were 100% separated and been done before you came into the picture. With that being said, there should be absolutely no reason that you and Quad have any static. And Sweet Tea, I hope that you listen to my commentary, and I hope you look back at you coming onto this show, and that you really sit down with yourself late at night before you lay your head to your pillow, and you really soak in the fact that you've become collateral damage and you were used as a pawn in a much bigger game. Truthfully speaking, the person that I feel bad for in this moment is Sweet Tea. Because if she has any level of introspection, and if she has any level of just being able to be honest with herself, right now she's somewhere coming to the realization that her husband is still in love with Quad. And that's got to be a hard pill to swallow. I'm going to tell you something. I would beat my boyfriend's ass. I would beat his MFing ass if ever we were somewhere and I seen him have that level of an emotional response over his ex and I'm sitting there. We'd be done. Because I'm supposed to be your now. I'm supposed to be your everything. I'm supposed to be your present. You supposed to be so intoxicated with the way I smell in between my legs and in my butt, up under my arms, down my back, and through my crack. You are supposed to be so caught up in the rapture of love. You are supposed to be so drunk off of my energy and off of my aura that what's going on over there can't penetrate your mind, body, and or soul. It definitely can't bring you the chorus. Me having to sit in fact that my husband is still in love with his ex even though he's with me for the whole world to see, I'm just going to tell you something, Sweet Tea. You a better woman than I ever be. Because I'd be somewhere like Quad ass was, reevaluating, is this who I really want to have a baby from? Now, I would never try to talk nobody out their check. It would either be that or it would be like, I care about my marriage and my man so much that this show can go to hell and I'm finna focus on my family. Because that, what we seen on this TV past Sunday, be very honest with you, love, that's not going nowhere in 30, 60, 90 days. That level of pain, that level of trauma, that level of regret, that level of desire, that level of attraction, that level of regret, that level of attraction, that level of regret, that level of attraction, that's not going nowhere, baby. That's not drying up in 30, 60, or 90 days. If it hasn't dried up in 3 or 4 years, baby, 90 days, 120 days, 365 days of the year, that ain't going nowhere no time soon. And it's not going to go anywhere until he feels like he's able to one-up her. And no tea, no shade, you're not it. There just is not a world. There is not a world where you try to one-up Quad and her man, and in comes Gregory and Sweet Tea. Heavenly in that messy ass game. Every time Heavenly and Dr. Damon sit up to the front with that chalkboard, I know it's going to be a messy ass game. And that's what it was. Married to Medicine, y'all. Yeah, it's really nothing else to say. I was going to touch on the line where, I want to say Greg's anger at Sweet Tea is so misdirected. It was so misguided. It pained me to see Sweet Tea getting yelled at by Greg. It pained me because I was like, she's catching it from all ends. She's going back and forth with Quad. And listen, coming into this show, having to live in Quad shadow, that's something. She's trying to find her place in this group. She's already the youngest. You're yelling at her like she's your daddy. She's trying to appease her husband, yet stand up for herself and say, I am woman, hear me roar. And, granted, Greg, your agenda was to not argue with Quad, but Sweet Tea had every right to go back and forth with Quad and defend herself in that moment if she wanted to. You bringing her, Gregory, into this mess and then yelling at her for the way she responded in this mess, it was heartbreaking to see. Then you get in the room, you really wanted to yell at Quad and you couldn't. You're really mad at yourself, but you're not man enough to admit that, and you took it out on that girl, and that wasn't right. You took it out on Sweet Tea, and it wasn't right. And then she goes downstairs, talks with Contessa and Toya, and I love the fact that Toya just so unbiasedly keeps it real, and Contessa's like, girl, there's a lot of stuff there, a lot of history, and she's there, and this man's got muscles. She's like, no, I don't think that's what it is. Toya was like, now, girl, Sweet Tea, I can look at you and tell you're not that dumb, right? Like, it might be hard for you to admit it, and you may not want to admit it publicly, and you may not be ready to acknowledge it. But you're not that dumb. And it's a painful realization to come to, but you know in your heart of hearts that that is what was bothering Greg. And it's gotta suck to be a woman and to be sitting there and like, she got her upgrade, but I'm your upgrade. I'm your upgrade. And the world is saying otherwise. And his response to the stimuli is saying otherwise. You are a better woman than I'll ever be. And I'm praying for you. That's all I got.